Welcome to Love You Bro Podcast. I am Jude Davella. This is my baby brother, Jamie Davella.
What it do?
Yeah, man. Why don't you tell them and let the listeners know where they can follow us at?
Yeah, follow us on Instagram, follow us on X, and follow us on our YouTube page.
Yeah, on our YouTube channel. Follow us on our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram. So we want to try to build up our followers on that. Hey, we'd like to thank our sponsors that allow us to do our episodes week in and week out. And first of all, we want to thank Nimble Brewing at 1735 Oak Street. They switch out their sour beers. That's kind of what they're known for down here. Great staff, fun people. And
shout out Nimble.
Yeah, we just want to say thank you to Nimble for allowing us to have such a cool place to shoot our episodes. And then our other sponsor we want to thank Proactive Solutions. Proactive Solutions has been delivering infrastructure solutions and IT design and consultation services to clients ranging from startups to Fortune 100 companies for the last 27 years. They are proud to be a Kansas City-owned and top woman-owned business, offering custom solutions and personalized support. You can trust Proactive Solutions with your technology needs. If your company needs IT solutions, reach out to Proactive Solutions at www.proactivesolutions.com. So thank you to Proactive Solutions for being one of our sponsors.
1,000. Thank you so much.
We appreciate everybody that's kind of been following us and watching our shows. We know a lot of people have been checking out our George Karlaftis episode, our Charles O'Menahue. We got some great guests coming on, some fun stuff to talk about today, and we can't wait to bring our boy. It'll be the first time my brother's got a chance to meet him, but I've worked with Mitch Morse for a while, and Mitch Morse, the center for the Jaguars, is going to be our guest on our set today. So super
excited for that, MIZ.
Yeah, man, super excited for that, bro. Excited to be back in front of the microphone, putting on another podcast. We're going to go into a little bit of Royals, and then we're going to go into a little bit of College World Series. You can see, like, Jamie hates it, but he knows, like, every year in the World Series, I jump on a team, I buy their gear, I go to Omaha, I buy a hat, I buy a shirt. We got some really fun stories to talk about the World Series. We were at a bar celebrating my birthday yesterday. My awesome fiance threw a party with my family yesterday, which was great. And of course, my little brother and my nephews and everybody were hounding me as I was rooting on the Tennessee Vols to win yesterday.
Yeah,
horrible. They were all pulling for Texas A&M because they saw me in my orange gear. So that's why I'm in the orange gear today, rooting for the Vols. We're playing for the national title tonight. But
go Aggies.
Yeah, of course. But let's talk a little bit about, we were hoping that the wheels weren't going to fall off. But
and what's funny is when we were talking to, when we had BMAC on, he was like, let's wait. And I was like, I don't know if we have to wait. I think we can kind of press it forward. And I think that we're, but it's, as our buddy Kerry Kraft would say, leaking a little oil, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, we were thinking like they were going to be like, we kept talking about the 14 team and like how, as the season progresses and like BMAC was saying, BMAC was like, you gotta wait by series. You gotta wait by get through May, then get through June, get to the All-Star break, and then see if we're going to start making some transactions and making some moves. But I don't know, man. The way the wheels have kind of fallen off.
It's going to be interesting. And I would say this, and just kind of reading stuff today, I think like the next week is pretty. I mean, for me, it'll dictate what they do the rest of the year because they got Miami, they got 3 with Miami, and then they got the Guardians coming to town, and then it's the Rays. So depending what they do, they can be kind of they mail it in and be sellers at the deadline. Or if they get back on and they go on a 7-3, 7-3 their next 10, get back in it because now Minnesota's overtaking them for second place.
Right,
we were 9 games back.
We were 15 games over 500 at one point, and when you and I were talking, we were like, man, if they can get to the All-Star break and just be like 9 or 10 games over 500. Now with the, going to get swept to Texas, now they're 5 games over 500. So like you said, these next 2 weeks are critical because it's going to decide whether do we go trade people? Do we do we get rid of people? Do we start buying people? Like what are we going to do here after the All-Star break to make that final push? But bro, the hitting has been atrocious.
Well, it has, man. I mean, to go that long without a run. And I mean, Texas is good. Texas is good, but they're not. I mean, they won the World Series last year, and they still have a lot of dudes. But the fact that there's no hitting, and once again, we love the Royals through and through, and I watch or listen almost nightly, when possible. But nobody wants to talk about it. But a guy who's been really, really disappointing is Vinny Pasquantino.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a guy that was going to be considered to help carry that load.
Yeah.
And he's just not right now. If he's not pulling the ball to the left, then it's out. If he hits a pop up anywhere other than pulled, it's an out.
Yeah,
he's just not driving in the runs that they anticipated or would, I did as a fan. I'm like, Vinny's going to be, Vinny kind of wit and, going to carry that offensive load. And right now they're just, there's no one.
Has it been 22, 26 innings that they have not scored a run? And that's just, and so, you can't have that downfall. The starting pitching that we had early on obviously was carrying, but they were scoring runs. They had those back-to-back 3 or 4 games. They scored 8 runs, 6 runs. And then right now I've kind of fallen off the table. You get swept at Texas.
When you go through it, like just the outfield, and obviously outfield-wise, Renfroe was getting hot, or he was warming up before he broke his toe.
Right.
You don't know where that's going to be, but that was another guy you weren't getting a ton from. Center field, Isabella, he can go get it. I like him in center, but can't really hit. And then you go to Melendez, he'll see him maybe 1 out of 4 games show shines, and he'll grand slam against the Dodgers, which was awesome. But you just don't get any hitting from there. Your corner outfield position's nothing, and you got it just hurts. It does, man.
Remember back in the days when we would talk about the Chiefs all the time, and you and I, kind of why we had started this podcast was just where we had started with our family and stuff. But remember back in the day when we talk about like, hey, the Chiefs are really close, or they're really close, and then you'd see a team like the Patriots come in, and you'd be like, shit, we're really not that close.
Yeah.
It's kind of what you look at like the Royals. Like we talked, we in our last podcast we did right when the Yankees had come into town, and you don't realize how far off you are. But when you just talk about that outfield, and you talk about Isbell and Melendez and Renfroe, and you're talking about those guys in your outfield, all of a sudden the Yankees come in with Soto and Judge, and you realize like those type of superstars in the outfield where you want your corner outfielders hitting 25, 30, 35, 40 bombs. We don't have those guys.
No.
We have none of those guys.
No. And I don't even think we have any in the system. Like you could be like, I think our guys are kind of up now who are up. There's some people right now in AA and AAA, but they're really not.
Right.
But once again, it kind of goes back to the competitive balance in baseball, and the Yankees can afford to make those mistakes, and they make all kinds of mistakes. Big dollar mistakes, but it doesn't hurt them. No. They'll go out and and they got a lot of homegrown talent, but you know what I'm saying? Right. They can miss on a Rizzo who wasn't spectacular, is having a bad year. They can go like the Royals, you have to hit on whoever they bring in.
Of course.
And when you're kind of in that bottom bargain, maybe even like Ben Sale of like a Renfroe and Frazier and Hampson, all those guys, there's clubs not lining up like the Yankees or the Mets or big spenders or the Phillies to go get those guys. Yeah. But they've got to be kind of a form of themselves that they have been in the past, and they just haven't been. And everyone knew the pitching was going to come back down. They weren't going to go do that.
Now
they're going to go,
We had guys throwing too many innings, throwing too good, going 7 innings every game and keeping us in ball games and stuff. But the bullpen's hurt us.
It is trash.
The bullpen is trash, and they're not hitting right now. So it's disappointing, but let's hope something here in the next couple of weeks turns around where they.
This is it, man. I'm telling you, these next 10, it really will tell you.
At least they're a little bit exciting down the stretch. Otherwise, we go in the rest of the summer, we go and turn our attention towards training camp, which thank God training camp's starting early this year. So these guys are ready to go. And a little shout out to our guy McCole Harbin. We got a yay from McCole
What
Harbin.
Up, my guy?
McCole Jet's going to come on. He got engaged this past week.
Yes,
yeah,
congrats.
So
man,
him and Shirai got engaged, and I think Chicago is what I saw on the social media. So Jet's going to come he's going to do our show. And
he's the best.
And man, and seeing all the TikTok, I know my daughter and one of our interns, Lily, like they're huge Swifties, and Jessica's daughter Janie's a huge Swiftie. So I get all these TikTok videos from our daughters on the whole T Swift thing, and watching Kelce be a part of this and be on stage and all this with the
Just
Swifties.
think about this right now. So it was I can't remember when she was in town when he wanted to meet up with her. Was it July, August?
She was here in July for the concerts last year.
Okay, so it hadn't even been a year.
No.
And his life has turned and transformed into this, like, he was already a star on the football field,
100%.
but to like now a mega star, like he's doing this stuff and like living his absolute best life. That was crazy. And it broke social media that he was on there. And he's so animated and so, somebody I forgot what show it was like, can you believe he can dance like that? And it was like, have you ever seen him dance in the end zone?
Yeah.
That guy's got, yeah.
Listen, I started working with TK when Travis first got to Kansas City. I was one of the first people to meet him. I met him through Dexter McCluster, who's one of our former guests on our show. And I met Travis and, started working for him. So to just see his transformation, what he's gone through and like seeing all this stuff right now. And Carly sending me, these TikToks and being like, Dad, I'm dead. Like Travis is on stage with Taylor, like all this stuff. But I told people all along the last several months, I've been doing this, and you know this, bro. I've been in this business for 22 years now, working with pro athletes. And the only guy with a little bit of swag that I think could even be on this stage with T Swift is Kelce.
Yeah.
He is the
Hands down.
only dude I know that could so-call this in and do all this. So that's super cool. And like I said, hats off to him and Taylor.
Yeah.
Hopefully those guys get married, because I know my daughter and Lily and Carly and Jamie will all be hysterical when that's going on.
Yeah,
so it's just
absolutely.
funny. So
It's
I know Taylor will be around Arrowhead a bunch this season. So
sure.
a lot of fun with that. But let's go into the College World Series, man. I had a chance to go last Wednesday back to World Series. I pick 1 or 2 days to go every single year.
Yeah.
And so I go to the World Series. We're sitting there at a bar. We're sitting at this bar, and we just got there. So we're sitting at this bar, and this couple is sitting next to me, and we're talking, and Herbie LaFuente, one of my guys that works for us, he's got the Love You Bro t-shirt on. So
yeah.
So he's sporting the Love You Bro t-shirt. So the guy turns around and he was like, hey, love you, bro, like shaking hands with Herbie. And so they're talking, and numerous people last week in Omaha were telling him, just love you, bro. Just thinking it was a t-shirt that said love you, bro. Yeah. And then he was telling people about our podcast. So the family turns around, mom turns around, her name's Lori Sechrist. And so she turns around and she goes, hey, she goes, just, really cool story. My son's starting today's game. And she goes, wow, this is the third year Tennessee's been in the World Series. She goes, my son's been on the team all 3 years, has never got to throw in the World Series, and he's starting today. So here we are there.
Wow, this is awesome.
Herbie's sporting the Love You Bro podcast t-shirt. They're talking about the Love You Bro. So, and talking to him, we're like, oh my God, like this Zander Sechrist kid he's gonna start today's game against Florida State. So we're talking to the mom and all the people around, and she's talking about Zander, starting that game. And so she tells the story. She said, when he was 11 years old, they were in town from Georgia, and here they are at this game. And he was 11. He told his mom, he said, you're going to watch me pitch in the World Series. And so, to see that come to fruition, see the tears in her eyes was it was super cool story. So Zander throws, right? So halfway through the game, they're texting us and they're like, come over to the family section. We'll be above 107. So we stood above 107 the rest of the game watching this Tennessee team. So here I am in my Tennessee hat. I've got zero ties to the Vols, never been to Knoxville, but their fans and their parents are like talking because they see the Sechrist talking to us. So we're having a blast with that. So he wins the game, throws 6 in the third innings.
Oh my God, yeah.
Beats Florida State. So, tonight's final game, national championship, right? And I go look up on Knoxville News. Coach is turning the ball over to him. So Zander's
so cool.
Starting tonight against Texas A&M.
That's the second appearance. He didn't finish 2 years prior.
2 years prior, never
awesome.
threw. So he's starting the national championship tonight.
I still want the Aggies.
I'm you know what?
I still want the Aggies.
I know you want the Aggies because that's just you. Because like yesterday, just being your normal self and being like the younger brother, whoever I'm rooting for, you're going to root against. So anyway, listen,
that's awesome, though, man. That's super cool.
Shout out to the Vols. Shout out to Tennessee Vols baseball. Zander Sechrist, and then also Christian Moore, who will be a top 10, top 15 MLB. Top 10.
He hit 33 homers this year.
33 homers. He hit
the leadoff spot.
Yes, and he hit for a cycle last week in the World Series, only the second player ever to do it. So
that's crazy.
Shout out to both those guys. I've talked to their parents, and they said, hey, man, we'd love to have them on.
Eventually,
so you know what?
So cool.
I'm doing one of these because we'd love to have Zander, love to have Christian.
Man, that would be cool. In all reality, that would be awesome.
And their parents on our podcast. Yeah. So go ahead and root for the Aggies now, man, because we're rooting for the Vols. I told them.
That's cool though. That would be awesome to have a College World Series winner and what that meant to him and his family. And that's cool.
I want to hear the story about when he told his mom when he was 11 that he was going to be on the show. Anyway, we're super excited about that, and let's get super excited about bringing on our guest tonight, man.
Mitch Morse from the
Jaguars.
I'm stoked.
Let's get ready for that.
Yeah, perfect.
Hey, welcome back to Love You Bro podcast. Want to bring on a very special friend for a long time and someone that we just appreciate for taking time out of his day. And Jamie and I want to welcome in Mitch Morse, center for the Jacksonville Jaguars, on our set for the Love You Bro podcast tonight.
What's up, brother?
I appreciate you guys, man. This is really cool. The cool vibes. We were just talking. It's just kind of a really fun gig you got going. I appreciate it. And you looking just skinny, man. It's freaking me out.
You haven't seen him in a minute.
No, well, it's just, so I see him every, 6 months or so. And then there's an influx of seeing you.
Right, yeah.
And to see it, it's just like, it's wild. It's cool. It's awesome, man.
He was dialing me up even though and telling me like, I've lost 5, I've lost 10, I've lost 15. I was like, you're going to get a new wardrobe, which is cool. Good for you.
No, that's like the Renaissance, right? Like the midlife Renaissance. That's cool as hell, man.
It's good. It's good. But Mitch, seriously, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, seriously, because you know me. I love doing what I'm doing. I've done this for 22 years. And to be able to have a chance to work with guys like you is like, it's what makes my job fun. It's what made us want to do a podcast. So thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I know family time right now is important, and that's what you're doing before you get to training camp. But thank you so much for coming on our podcast tonight.
I appreciate you guys having me on. This is cool.
Thank you so much. And and this is real talk. Jude has always just raved about how nice and sweet of a guy you were. He's like, man, you're just a great dude. And he's like, I just enjoy it. He's like, man, it's like, he gets in the car and it's like, we just, it's like we've known each other and talk. It's like, brothers, man. And I love you, bro. And that's
it's a facade, dude.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's a facade. No, because when you walked in, I was like, I never mentioned, I was like, I've known Mitch now for 20 plus years now. We're college buds.
No, it's all for show. Don't worry about it. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, it's great to have you here. I know your wife's from Omaha. We were talking a little bit offset right now, a little bit about the World Series because I had a chance to go back and I talked a little bit early on our show tonight about that. I was in Omaha last week and I met some of the parents there, some of the Tennessee parents. Yeah. And here I am like, Mitch, I'm buying a Tennessee Vols hat an hour before the game. And I'm sitting at a bar and I met these parents and they're like, our son's starting today. He was 11. He was here from Georgia, and he told me we were going to watch him pitch in the World Series one day. So to be there to see that and to know they're giving him the ball again tonight. He threw Wednesday against Florida State, beat Florida State 7-2. So Zander Sechrist is back on the mound for Tennessee tonight. So good luck to those guys. But tell us a little bit about Omaha. You get some Omaha, a little bit experience
Omaha
there?
ties.
Dude, some Omaha ties. So my wife's from Omaha, like as you well know.
Right.
We were just there last week, and I've, from afar, I didn't know much about Omaha until I met my wife. Let's just be honest. And I think I'm not in the minority in that department.
Sure.
With it only being a 3-hour jaunt from Kansas City. So I got to visit my wife because we started dating in college.
So you met at
Mizzou.
Okay.
Yeah, she was a volleyball player and I was a football player, and she was a senior and I was a freshman.
Oh wow!
Which was way cool for me and not cool for her friends. So shout out to my wife for sticking around.
That's awesome, Kaylin. That's awesome.
No, she's. I mean, I'm sure you guys can attest when you find your best friend. It's just it makes life a lot sweeter. That being said, dude, Omaha is a sports town. Kansas City's a sports town. Omaha is a sports town. They love their sports. They love, of course, their Cornhuskers. And in fact, my father-in-law was always for years, and he'll deny this, but was way more excited about the Cornhuskers I played with than me actually being on the team. So I got to Buffalo, and he'd be like, Jeremiah Searles and Spencer Long. And I'm like, so am I.
That's awesome.
But so, they have the Olympic trials there. Right. And in fact, it's a good story. They were having the World Series back in 2018. We got married in the Hilton, right? I mean, literally, you can throw, I can't with my elbows now, but if you can throw something, right there.
Center field, the Hilton's right there.
Well, connected to the convention center right there where they have the trials. And the weather kept delaying these games and the championship games. And so actually they had the home run derby the night of our wedding. And
that's wild.
And it got rained out. And they actually crashed our wedding.
Seriously,
dude. I was hammered drunk, and these guys.
So you
came
loved
up,
it,
dude. I was like, they ran up the bill like $6,000 on booze, but it was really fun. And I mean, they didn't even try though. They came in like their baseball pants and everything with the eye black. They know we got invited, and then they were getting kicked out, and I was like, no, I'll let them in. And they're like, you sure? I was like, yeah, no. So
that's
it was
awesome. It
was really fun. But anyways, Omaha. First of all, super solid people.
Yes.
Killer food, like good food. Everyone knows Omaha steaks. They're beef folk up there.
Yep. Yeah.
The only thing that freaks me out about Nebraska is that they keep changing their state motto.
Okay.
And it used to be, I think, the good life, right? And now they're like staring into, well, it's not for everyone. Like that's the fact that the state motto, which I'm like, listen, people like Omaha, people like Nebraska, it's cool, but can't say enough good things about Omaha, Nebraska. It's awesome.
Yeah, and then this. My daughter just graduated from Creighton, so we've spent a little bit of time the last 4 years up in Omaha, and we love Creighton and we love Omaha. But I've always been a baseball guy, and Jamie not as much, and so I've always gone back to the World Series and done stuff there. And the people in Omaha, great, food great, but just always had so much fun in Omaha. And that the World Series, what they do with the College World Series. I don't know if anybody else in the country could do what they do, because that week, that 7 to 10 days is incredible.
Well, it's not for the faint of heart either. It's very rambunctious.
Yes.
Like, dude, because they did the old, and this kind of reminded me of Buffalo-esque, like where the old stadium is right next to where the zoo is.
Yes.
And it was in this neighborhood. So I know, I never experienced this, but I know they used to do like tailgating stuff right on the houses. But I understand why they moved, because it is a party.
Yes.
Yeah.
10,000 people. They got DJs. I mean, people are getting ripped drunk.
Yeah.
It's a fun time.
Yeah, the old Rosenblatt. So I had a chance to go back to the old Rosenblatt back in the day, and the old cobblestone road and stuff like that. People partying in the yards. I mean, I was not partying then. I was young when all that was going on, but it was like seeing Rosenblatt and then the history there. This new stadium they got there is just, it's super cool.
They got it going on, yeah.
Is that where the farm system for the Royals play?
Yes.
Is that double A?
No, the triple A team. That's the Storm Chasers.
Okay.
The Storm
I think
Chasers.
maybe Creighton, that's their home baseball field
Creighton plays
too.
their home baseball there, and then the Royals triple A team plays there as well.
And how long ago did they redo that downtown? Because I say it's just sparkling, it's shining. But the College World Series kind of put that money right into the community. I mean, into the.
These are answers I should know.
The Charles Schwab Stadium at 2012 was the first year they played there. 2012 was the first year they played.
But it's all brand new stuff down there.
Well, they got the cool like old market area down there where they still have the cobblestone streets where you feel every bump in your car.
Especially after a couple beers.
Yeah, a couple beers. Like, it's just a really cool spot. I got nothing but good things to say about Omaha.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I know we touched a little bit on the baseball. Mitch, we want to get into your career, your football career. There's so much to talk about. You know, I feel like in the football world, you know, everybody knows all the stuff about the quarterbacks and the receivers and the running backs. But Jamie and I always know like where it starts in the NFL and college. Everything starts up front. If you don't have something on that offensive, defensive line, it doesn't matter where you have everything else, because that's where it starts, is in the trenches. So I'm glad to have Big Mitch Morse, the center that holds it down, that held it down in Kansas City, the 5 years you spent in Buffalo. So let's talk a little bit about your high school and where you came from there in Austin, and what that was like. I want to know kind of what that was like when you were getting recruited. We know you went to Mizzou, but I want to hear a little bit about like your high school there in Austin and what that was like playing there. And did you want to go to Texas, or it was, tell me a little bit about the high school.
Well, I was telling your brother right when we walked in, like, this guy is meant to be walking down West 6th Street. Just looking, I mean, it looks like every neighbor you had in Austin. Like, he fits in perfectly. Austin, call me a homer. Yeah. I love everything about it. I love the vibe. I love the people. Of course, it's changed, but so does every person's hometown.
Of course.
I went to a very small school, kind of in the Westlake area. It's called St. Michael's Catholic Academy. Unlike other places, Texas, the private schools, unless there's a select few, you play in your own little league. Okay. So there's the Episcopal School League, and then there's the Catholic School League, which is TAPS. And so when people say Friday Night Lights in Texas, we didn't really get to experience that to the full extent, like you see portrayed in movies and stuff. But it was so much fun. I think anyone you talk to, like, you play for the love of the game, right? Absolutely. Like, and so we were just out there having fun. I had no aspirations of playing college, or absolutely no aspirations to play professional. I was just trying to have fun and, do the best you can, all the cliche stuff, and just the next opportunity kind of presented itself.
Right.
But it was a small little school. I think 400 people went there, and we had a few college athletes come out, mostly for like basketball. We had a really good women's basketball player come out of there, but ended up having an opportunity to go to Missouri. Right. And like you said, I loved University of Texas growing up. Like, there's like you bled burnt orange growing up, right? But I wasn't in a position to get recruited by Texas, right? And of course, so you get real bitter, but it's how it is. Like, looking back at it, there's no way they're going to take a chance on a really small, school kid coming out there. So I get recruited by Missouri, and I'd gone on a few other trips, and I just loved everything about it. And I loved the opportunity to leave home. Right. I loved Austin, but I thought, the next opportunity should be where I kind of had to fend for yourself is kind of the poor choice of words, but dude, if I had to do it all over again, I would, like Missouri. Right. And of course, I met my wife, and that's a whole other thing. But just something about Columbia, Missouri, I love it. And I don't go back as often as I should,
Right.
whether it be football or family
Sure.
and stuff.
Right.
But even with it being so close,
And doing a little research, did I see though in high school you were an offensive tackle in high school, correct?
yeah, no. So I went from my freshman year. I had never played tackle football before,
Okay.
so I went from playing flag football, which is a boatload of fun, and I push anyone to play flag football.
Okay.
And I played JV receiver, and I had bricks for hands, and I ran like a 5'6" 40. I was a tall, lanky kid. I grew quite a bit. And so it was this horribly cliche moment. It was like, Coach, I want to play on Friday nights.
Right.
It's like, well, okay, well, it's not gonna be a receiver. I was like, okay. So, and he ended up moving me to the left tackle on the varsity.
Okay.
And it was a huge learning curve, but I had a great high school coach who was very patient. And never looked back. It was awesome. And I actually played tackle most of my college career too.
So you played tackle? You played mainly tackle?
I played center until they found out I had so I played like 8 games at center, and I could not snap the ball to save my life, which was a huge, the Chiefs really took a gamble on me, being able to snap the ball again.
Right.
So they moved me out to tackle, and I played a year and a half at right tackle, and then I moved into left tackle, and then the Chiefs decided that my short arms and small hands meant for me to hold the football,
and they
which was
love
wild.
to have versatility, the fact that you play
Totally.
right tackle and left tackle. So to back up to high school, when did you know college was to get a scholarship or getting recruited? When did you know it was after your junior year? When you start getting letters?
Definitely junior year. We used it at first as the opportunity just to try to get into a school where you might not be able to get to without football.
Right.
And until we eventually found out, no, there's an opportunity for you to push the limits a little bit in regards to who you send this to. And it was a very humbling experience. I'm sure recruiting's changed quite a bit. Missouri was my first offer, and I took it.
I love it.
I fell in love,
Yeah,
and
right.
I was like, "Yep, you got me. Cool, I'm in."
Yeah.
It kind of eliminated all the other distractions. I got to just be a high schooler who was it was really fun. It was just super cool.
That's awesome. And when you were saying about the snaps, because this is something that Creed has had some trouble with.
Sure.
And is it something that's psychological? Is it because they'll say that the second baseman can't get the ball knob block back with the Yankees? He just got the ips and couldn't do it? Or is it how does that work out? Or how did you get it to not be an issue?
Well, I think first Creed is rightfully one of the best centers in the NFL right now, especially with Jason Kelce leaving, maybe the best. Every
That's
center,
big coming from you, 'cause you're one of the top, Mitch.
Listen, I'm a. It's weird to be the seasoned veteran of centers in the NFL, but I will say every center, no matter what, in a season will have something where they have to recommit themselves to snapping the football.
Sure.
For me, even under center, I snap left. So every quarterback that I come with, we have to learn how. So me and Trevor going through this. I have to. You have to put under center. Excuse me, that's disgusting. Under center purposes like that, and then I'm sure there's an injury or so that he's not going to talk about because he's a guy that that's not his way. For me, when I saw that, I was like, something is he's dealing with something.
Sure.
Whether in his hand or wrist or something like that. So I don't know. I don't know anything about Creed. I don't know anything about that. But especially when a guy has been doing this so long and he can do it.
Sure.
And to be honest, a lot of people put their eggs in that basket. I thought it was fine, and it's something that I don't think is going to be a real problem for him.
Yeah, no, moving forward, and that's big. And I think that what's so cool is that
Thank you.
once again, what I find was why, because you walked in, I'm like nicest guy, but you have a nastiness on the field. And you have and so it's weird because
Toradol brings a lot out of a person. Yeah,
it's a switch on that you go. Because I remember you back in the day, watching you close the Chiefs, not afraid to mix it up, getting people off your quarterback, getting down. It was and I said centers, all of them are kind of. I mean, a lot of them have them just nastiest, but then the nicest. I'm like, whoa, this is so wild that it's because you're so nasty. It's I would think that's kind of how they are. They're just kind of nice, nice, but it's not.
Well, it's interesting. Every person's got me, and this is going to be an of course moment, but every offensive lineman, every guy's got their own kind of temperament, right? For me, I've always been when I'm playing football, this is my job in regards to kind of not delegate, but make sure everyone's on the same page. Do your job at center. You just kind of have a cerebral moment of it. Never am I thinking I'm going to go do something nasty or dirty. It's just kind of like, this is what the, football was what's dictated on this play is necessary. Right. Yeah. Push the pile forward. Or someone's on top of the quarterback, can't have that, get them off. Like, it's never been like, I'm going to impose like my nastiness to set a tone. It's never been, it's never gone through my head, but there's something about like running, picking up a guy, like that sets a tone. Yeah. So it is interesting. And some guys just have that nastiness in them. Like Ryan Jensen for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for years was like, that dude is just a dog, nasty guy. Right. So in the best way, like through parameters of football, but it is very interesting, and you never know what emotion is going to get you. You have so much caffeine in you. You're feeling the best you have all week because you have anti-inflammatories in you. Like, you just don't know sometimes what's going to come out of you. Right.
Mitch, I want to go back a little bit. We were talking just a few minutes ago when you were talking about, the snapping of the ball and stuff, because I know a lot of that's just changed from, back in the old day where everybody was under center to, everybody being in the shotgun and so much more movement and motion and stuff now. How much more difficult does that make it, maybe from your time, if you played some center at Mizzou, how difficult was it to make that change? Or, you get the Chiefs and you start seeing what Coach Reed's doing with this offense and stuff like this. How different is that, or how much work do you have to put in, making sure you're getting that ball right, back to Alex Smith back in that day, but back to the quarterback?
Well, like you said, I came in as a rookie to a position I hadn't played in a very long time. And you're familiar with the box, right? Like, you call it between the tackles. Yes. Like, we had maybe one attached tight end a few times in college. Right. And now you load up a box, you have 12 personnel or jumbo personnel, and there's 8 people in the box. And and conceptually, you have no idea what you're even looking at. Right. So, Coach Heck, the offensive line coach here, who I think is one of the best in the league. Awesome. I love that. Was he brought me along. It wasn't the most comfortable for me, but he had to do it, right? Like, you had Alex Smith, who's a quarterback of 12 or 13 years, extremely patient, awesome guy. I don't think people talk enough about Alex Smith just as a player and a person. Yeah, and you just kind of had to learn it. And the most uncomfortable way to do it, which is the best way to do it, is trial by fire. Right. Like, dude, you got to sink or swim, and we're going to give you every tool to swim. It's not like we want to see you fail. We want you to do this. And I also had a guy named Eric Cush here in town who was very gracious with me. I kind of got drafted to possibly kind of come in and be the center, and he was the established center there. And he was just so forthcoming with information and time, so he made me feel very comfortable, which I thought was also huge.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's touch on Alex Smith just a little bit, because like you said, I don't think Alex gets enough credit. And working, closely with a lot of guys with the Chiefs, during the time, you hear stuff from different guys. And I don't think people really realize how vital Alex was to bringing Patrick along and what he taught him, because that was Alex's best year. But he knew, because everybody inside the locker room kind of knew that 15 was going to be the guy the following year, right? I mean, that's kind of what people talked about, right?
Yeah, well, I think, Pat got drafted in the first round, and we were all a little bit perplexed. And I think anyone who says differently is not lying, but there was always a little bit of, not skepticism, but just kind of not understanding what was going on. Because we had Alex, but, talk about kind of this with Eric Cush, like, Alex was an ultimate professional. I saw Alex, there was no idle time in his day. Like, he was a father of 3 already. So every minute of the day had a purpose. Right. And then you just see Pat along with him. And Pat was an awesome dude, comes in, kind of understood the dynamic of everything. He's kind of sat back. And, you see him in practice, but you don't really know. Mm-hmm. But he was always just a killer dude. But the writing was on the wall, sure. But we were all a little bit, I wouldn't say protective of Alex, but like, of course, year 3, I think you'd be protective of a guy much older than me. But we was like, he was my quarterback. It's the only thing I knew. I was a young guy. Of
course.
And then, of course, Alex moves on, gets paid in Washington, does, like as he should. And then Pat came in and the upper management knew more than we did about football. So
and when we had DJ on, he would say like the the stuff he was doing in practice, people were like, holy shit, this is like, that's the throws he would make or the stuff he would do. Everyone's like, this kid is the real deal. And Alex, obviously professional, and you hear stories about whether it's Brett Favre with the Aaron Rodgers and vice versa, not willing to be just that guy who's like, know that they're eventually going to overtake them for that, not overtake them, but that's their position to be. And they're really not very friendly regarding why do I have to do that? That's not my job to get him prepared. And I think that was said by someone recently. I don't know if it was Rogers. I don't want to be misquoted, but somebody that was like, hey, it's not my job to get him ready. But I used to have a restaurant and Alex would come in, be so sweet to everyone, the staff. I mean, he was just the best. He was just a sweet dude. My business partner and I, he was like, hey, when he went to Washington, it's like, you guys need to come out. I'll fly you guys out. He was just a really, really nice person that was nice to the busboy, to everyone in the establishment, said goodbye to everyone, just a class act. So it's obviously testament to who he is.
Like, this niceness for me is a facade.
It's not.
But for Alex, that was his default setting.
Yeah.
He was just a genuinely a good man.
Yeah.
I mean, to think that Alex, here he is, that last year that he was here, that he had the season he had while he's bringing Patrick along, knowing, okay, no matter what I do this season, more than likely this kid's going to take my job.
Sure. And
he still puts up. He was the highest rated quarterback that year. He put up all the yards. I mean, had a great season. So it was just crazy to see. I later on hearing about how much he did for Patrick, but I love the fact that 15 right now is always so grateful, so gracious about thanking Alex and everything he did for him. I think their relationship's awesome. I don't know that person.
Pat's also just a good dude.
Right.
Like I've never seen a guy's life change in 2018 from week 1 to week 17.
Yeah.
I mean, coming from a guy where no one really knew what to expect to an MVP, like say the same dude in the locker room, it was just a very nice guy. And of course, I haven't been around him in years.
Right.
But everything you hear is just the same.
Same guy.
Yeah,
same guy.
dude. Nice guy.
We were blessed because me doing the primetime assistance and primetime transportation, we do enough stuff with the Chiefs, and so we did stuff during that when the rookies come in when they got the 30 visits.
Yeah.
So we're picking guys up, and so we were the first people to meet Patrick when he landed here. And I tell people, listen, I'm not around him every day now, but I see him enough that from the first time I picked him up when he came in from Texas Tech for just a visit to now, same guy. I mean, to me, same guy, same personality, comes up to me. He doesn't have to stop and say hi to me. Always comes up, handshake, big hug and everything, like what's going on? And so it's him and Travis both. Him and Travis have always been like that.
Travis.
So
he's a good guy. Travis.
Yeah.
Talk about guys' life's changed a little bit.
My goodness. I was just telling him that. Before that, I was like, it wasn't even a year ago before Taylor Swift was here in Kansas City. It was in July. I'm like, it wasn't even a year ago. And his life has changed where he went viral for going on stage.
Yeah.
He was on stage with Taylor.
Well, he's always down for a good time. And he's also one of those guys that what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
Like just an extraordinary dude. And it's one of my favorite things to tell guys who ask about him is just like, he's just a genuine guy.
Yes.
He wears his emotions on his sleeve.
Yes.
But he's just a great guy.
There was a rookie this year he was like a practice squad guy that they just signed him. And he was talking about how he's sitting in the lunchroom and he goes, I look up and Kelce's like, what's up, my guy? And just sits down next to him. He goes, this is like the guy. I mean, this is after the Taylor stuff that is bigger and big. And he's like, he's sitting down with me and like a guy who just got signed to the practice squad. And I'm like, I'm the 53-man guy on the roster and I've been around, So it sounds like it's a culture because you talked about Cush being that guy to you.
Totally.
And Travis right now, you could tell he's excited. We got a kid from TCU tight end. That who could not learn better from the best, and then the Alex Smith to Mahomes. That's all. Like that's really cool, and that's like how it's just kind of universal within. I think that the organization's always had a tight knit group or draft quality characters. Quality characters that are willing to do that and take that extra step and be that brother or that figure in the locker room, and it shows.
Yeah, I would agree.
Mitch, is that Andy thing? Is that a Coach Reed thing? A Coach Reed thing that builds that environment in that locker room? Because we just had on George Karlaftis a couple episodes ago, and George talked about when he got drafted, he was in the locker room. He made us laugh so hard because he was like, Travis came up and said hi, like I'm Travis Kelce, and Patrick's like I'm Patrick Mahomes, and George's like, I know who you guys are, but he goes, those are the two biggest guys in our locker room. And again, that culture of coming up and introducing themselves and welcoming the rookies to the team, is that Andy's culture? Is that the way that locker room is when you were here?
Well, I would say it's what every guy's pushing towards now.
Okay.
He's like, yes, you can have an outlier here or there, but the old saying that like one bad apple can kind of permeate through is the truth. So, I mean, it's all that I've really known with the teams I've been on is like good locker rooms lead to better football.
Sure.
Coach Reed is just, I mean, like I don't need to, plenty of guys probably talked about how great of a leader he is and stuff.
Right.
We had a very interesting relationship because he was an offensive line guy.
Of course.
I don't know if we talked more than 5 times off the field, and that's okay.
Right.
That's totally fine. I'm a young guy. I'm sinking a little bit, and I'm trying to keep my head above water. But he was very gracious with coaching me on the field because he knew exactly how he wanted. He's an offensive guy, and I think he preached to let your personality show, and I think the personalities that they bring in, and that most teams try to bring in now, are just good guys because that really pushes teams through tough times.
Yeah. Right.
Because it's inevitable, no matter how good a team is, that you're going to go through something in a season, within games. Like, you got to have guys around you that know how to push the pile forward in a positive way. Everyone can get up someone's ass.
Of course.
Yeah.
Most guys aren't the most receptive to that because they're their own biggest critic. So usually it's people picking other people up, and in the heat of the moment, that usually takes very good dudes to do.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so after your time here in Kansas City, you go from the Kansas City, which obviously Kansas City's fan base it's one of the top.
Totally.
Then you go to Bills Mafia, and that shit's just different. I mean, that shit is just, and as a Chiefs fan, my parents were carrying me into the stadium when I was, 3 years old. And I know the fan base, it's wild, but Bills Mafia is just, that shit's different. It's like, it is. And, to talk a little bit about when you brought up Jason, he was like, I always wanted to go out and be in the element when we went up there, and he was out there like taking shots from bowling balls and just having the time of his life. But those fans are different. I mean, they are the best of the best, and it's talk about that. Like when you were going there,
totally. Yeah, I think. Well, you don't know what to expect when you go to a different team, and you have preconceived notions of places, right? Like they had gone to the playoffs, I think, once 2 years before. They're kind of coming off of a disappointing season, but you knew that there was a good locker room. You knew Coach McDermott was trying to do the right things. I also knew that he was under the Andy Reid tree, so I was very familiar with that. I loved every second of being in Buffalo. I loved the team. I loved the guys and the fans. I mean, so the thing about New York is, or at least Western New York, is the bars close at 4:30 in the morning.
Good Lord.
Well, it's a very blue collar town. So if you play a 1 o'clock games, there's these workers would go straight from their shifts to the bar, straight from the bar to the parking lot. So you show up as a player at 8 in the morning for a 1 o'clock game. These dudes are hammered in the parking lot. And,
you have to be to jump through those tables. I'm like, dude, they're crazy.
Totally. So I mean, of course, the team moved on. We went our separate ways, and but I have nothing but very fond memories of everything that town and that organization did for me. It's just where the position my family's in now. It's of course due to Kansas City and that foundation they gave me for football. I mean, Kansas City's still home. Yeah. But Buffalo and those fans, and it's just.
I saw I think it was before the Chiefs game. Like the fans were in there shoveling. Like they had like a platoon of people shoveling the snow, and they had a whole
that's one thing I won't miss. It's like one thing I won't miss is just it does dump snow. They bought, so I think Ralph Wilson. I don't want to bush this. Ralph Wilson was the original owner of the place of Buffalo Bills, and he bought the land because it was the cheapest land. Because I don't know what kind of map it is. Right. But it was the place that got dumped on snow the hardest in all of Western New York was because no one had bought that. So that's why that place just gets hammered.
Orchard Park, right?
Orchard Park, okay. Yeah, no doubt. Right in Orchard Park.
Orchard Park.
Yeah.
All right, so Mitch, let's talk a little bit about, we talked about the centers and how the Chiefs have drafted some really good centers, and you've been in a line of that, being a Pro Bowl center yourself. But some of the quarterbacks you've played with, and you played with some big name guys, some big playmakers. I know Alex was great to play with, and I'm not trying to go away from him, but I want to talk a little bit more about the younger gunslingers, because there's been that rivalry between 15 and 17, and I think it's one where they love each other off the field because you see that, but between the lines, those gunslingers are going. What was it like being with Patrick that last year you're here, watching him go through that season where he threw 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns? Tell us a little bit about that year, and then talk a little bit about being with Josh in Buffalo.
Well, yeah, like I had said earlier, no one had really the idea of the trajectory that Pat would go on, and then from week 1 to week 1 we played the Chargers in that soccer stadium, and he just went nuts. And we're like, oh, this is cool. That's a really cool deal. And then he just kept doing it over and over again. And and I was sidelined for quite a bit of that season. So then I got to watch it from the fans' perspective as well. So I had a very interesting kind of idea of it. He's just like, you could tell just the way he'd walk into a huddle. Like every good quarterback I've been around, Josh had this too. Trevor's got this. Is like you walk into the huddle, and no matter what they're going to call, they're confident in it, right. And they walk in no matter what type of game we're in. If it's a barn burner or if it's a close game, like you walk in, and at the most pivotal moments of the game, they walk in with just kind of this moxie about them, where you know that like, hey, listen, this might be the most important part of the game where tensions are the highest, and you could be your most timid.
Right.
But these quarterbacks, they're just not like that. And Pat showed that at a very young age. I mean, I was a young man myself too, so it was just really fun to see. And then we had that loss in the AFC Championship game where it came down to the wire. It brought us back in that second half, and he won the MVP, and it was really cool to be a part of. Right. It was just like,
that game was so close. Mitch, sorry to interrupt there, but it's so close. I mean, I thought that interception, I'm sitting in the stands and being, lifelong fans going my whole life. I'm like, we're going to the Super Bowl. And someone's like, the flag's down. I'm like, no, there's not a flag. And there's a flag down, but it was so close to like,
I mean, listen, dude, you can't put it on one person. Like there's plenty of opportunities. The offense could have scored at least something in the first half.
Right.
I mean,
because we were scoreless the first half, right?
Dude, it was something like that. Yeah. It was something wild, maybe 3 points. I don't know.
Right.
We didn't do anyone any favors. So it was a gut wrenching moment. I know D4 got a lot of flack. He's a great guy, and he didn't deserve that. But yeah, you see that. You see that interception go up. You're getting off the field.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, well, I'm going to the Super Bowl, and then you're not really. And then you see Tom Brady do his thing. But so then that was my last year. So I only got 1 year with Pat playing, and can't say enough good things about him. And then going to Josh was just like he's one of my best buddies. Like he's just I was talking with your brother earlier. Like he's just one of the dudes. Like talk about he's got a personal relationship with everyone in that locker room. He's a giant kid that loves contact, and you beg him to slide every so often, but that's just not his game.
No.
And he's everything you want in a quarterback, and that was one of the big reasons why Jacksonville is very interesting to me, because I seen Trevor from afar,
of course, and
we played him twice in Buffalo, and they beat us both times. And you see Trevor do his thing, and you're just like, this guy's got something about him.
Of course, he's definitely got an it factor.
And getting to know him even in this small amount of this window, I'm just so happy that I get an opportunity to play with him, because he's got all those intangibles that all these quarterbacks I've played with has got. Right. So for me, it's just trying to give him an opportunity to be the best version of himself, which is what any center is just trying to do.
Sure. So talk a little bit about, you're coming into your 10th year, right?
Yeah.
Coming into your 10th year, 4 years in Kansas City, 5 in Buffalo. Talk a little bit about your free agency, and like you said, you start getting, I don't want to say towards the end of your career, but I mean,
no, dude, we're in the twilight years for sure.
you're getting towards.
We're definitely towards the end. Yeah, there's no doubt.
And I'm not, trying to put you in that category.
Listen, dude. But, no matter how you look at it, we're towards the end.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're doing that, and then you enter into free agency, like I said, Jamie and I from afar, football's our game, and we love it inside and out. And we're those goofy guys that are reading every article and watching every guy get released in free agency, and who's going where and signing where. And one of the things we talked about was, Buffalo. Where their payroll and stuff was, and guys were going to get released. So obviously you're one of my guys, and I'm talking to Jamie, and he goes, are you like, I'm like, I'm not going to talk to Mitch after he signed, and then I'll figure out like where he's going. But tell us a little bit about free agency when you were looking, how you ended up in Jacksonville. Like you said, you're looking for that team that's gonna be a playoff team. Yes.
And I was pissed, Mitch, that you went to Jacksonville, and I was like, I want you to go to NFC. I'm like, I want my guy to get paid. Go to Tampa. Go get Kelce's vision. I'm like, Jacksonville, we still got to deal with him throwing guys around on our line.
Well, here's what I'll say was that I had every intention of retiring as a Buffalo Bill.
Yeah.
I go into the GM's office at the end of the season, just kind of, I've done it every year, just get the finger on the pulse.
Right.
And for Brandon Beane's credit, he's a very transparent man. I think it's very tough in that position to have a dynamic where you're trying to have a relationship with these players, but also understand that it's your job to, tinker with the roster, do whatever. You're going to have these tough decisions to make. So he had kind of given me in a roundabout way an inkling that my tenure in Buffalo was done.
Okay.
It was just very he's talking past tense stuff. It was all good, and I appreciated the candidness. And my biggest thing was in life, candidness. It can be tough at the time you get it, but you appreciate it after the fact. Right. And he was candid through the whole thing. So it wasn't the biggest blindside when I got the call to get released. Of course, you miss. The biggest thing is you get emotional thinking about the relationships you've built with these guys and the time you spent and how your family's involved. So, we get this opportunity, if you want to call it, to see if I even want to play football again.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's year 9. I've done a lot, and I had this very candid conversation with my wife. I've had injuries in the past, and I've had concussions in the past, and this is just part of my story. It's not the story I wanted, but as is life.
This is where you're at right now.
So where we're at. So she was like, I don't envision your football career being over, and that was something I wasn't totally expecting. So that gave me the confidence. It was the inkling that I had, right? Like I wanted to keep playing. So it happened very quick. I got released on a Wednesday and had committed to play, I think, Sunday for the Jags. But I went to go visit Pittsburgh, and I was, and it was between Pittsburgh and Jacksonville, and I was really hoping I wasn't going to like Pittsburgh, and I went there, and I loved everything about it. I love Tomlin. I love the players. He's a stud.
Yeah. I was going to say, what's not to love about Tomlin, huh?
Then it came down to a few things, and Jacksonville just became the right choice for my family and I.
Good.
Pittsburgh is a really cool spot. And of course, it's like the Steelers, right? But then went down to Jacksonville, and Doug was my OC my first year. We had a few coaches who were in Buffalo, weirdly, actually end up in Jacksonville over the years. And it was the right decision for me, and it was solidified through OTAs. Like the guys are awesome. The fans are great. The surrounding towns are awesome. Like we live next to a beach. Like it's just... it's weird seeing palm trees in your parking lot. Like it's strange. So when Jacksonville came calling, it was exciting for me and my family, and to have that opportunity. And I think Trevor was a huge point of that. Like you said, I want to go to football heaven.
Right.
And not to say that the Steelers weren't that option. They totally were. True. But like something about Trevor, and of course Doug and the other guys that I know, it was just made that decision easy for me at the end. Yeah. And so that was great.
And so,
go ahead, Jamie.
I bet, and there's not many centers in the league that can say they played with this superstar quarterback than you. I mean,
totally.
Those three, those guys are guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, all three of them are guys. That's super cool.
Totally.
And obviously you're the commodity of like, that's what you want to protect. I mean, obviously you have to have that line. You want to protect your investment and investing in you to protect him. And I'm sure Trevor's stoked to get you there. Let me ask you this. When he was in Buffalo and it's like, hey, this might be a thing, do you talk to Josh, or does Josh talk to an organization and be like, man, I don't want to see him go. Like we got to, or is there something that, it just, that's not a thing that's discussed? And it's just kinda...
That's a good question. I think every situation is so different. I don't know what happened behind closed doors. Right. And for me, it's the nature of the beast to think you're not going to get touched at some point by it. I mean, a few people do not get touched by it, and that's a beautiful thing. But rarely in football does everything work out the way you want it to.
Of course.
And to be honest, the blessing's near the wound, because it's a great, like Jacksonville. Like I was feeling like the old man in Buffalo, right? Like, and now it gives me an opportunity to, well, you got to buck up, dude, and kind of run around there with these young guys. Yeah. And it's just kind of, I didn't know it would, but it kind of breathed a new life into me. And of course it's hot as hell, but the joints like it. And I'll tell you what, my family and I are thrilled. Yeah. We're so elated, and nothing against Buffalo or anything. It was home for so long, and but it's business, and it's so hard not in this business to get your feelings into it. It's such an emotional deal football is in general. So for sure it did a little bit, but you take a step back and you realize, everyone gets touched at some point. So it was just my time, and I'm thankful for it in the end.
And Jacksonville has a really exciting young roster. I mean, offensively, you guys got weapons. You guys got, that's a fun situation to get into.
Yeah. I mean, I've been on teams where on paper, you don't know how it's going to go, and you exceed or you don't meet up expectations. And that's the beautiful thing about football, is that you get to grow as a team, and ebbs and flows in seasons or so I don't know what this team's going to be. I have every expectation to be successful. But it is kind of a fun team that you have this life kind of like when I got to Buffalo, it was like, we know that we have an opportunity to be good. We didn't get quite where we wanted to the year before. And now it's different being a year 10 guy. It is a very established offensive line room, established offense, and there wasn't much turnover. So I have a different role.
Right.
And that's fun. That's interesting. Like I get to just be more of a tool to accentuate everyone else's talents, hopefully, and along the way, try not to mess it up.
I was just thinking right now, I got to tell you a funny story about one of your offensive linemen. I want you to kind of tell me about what it was like playing with him and seeing him come in, because he came into your offensive line. And doing my business and what I've done, we have a little recruiting type of service that we kind of help kids. And so we were going to work with a kid from Northern Iowa. And I walked in there with a guy, and a good friend of mine, Steve Brittingham. He coached in college and played in college, played Arkansas State, played some places. And we walked into Northern Iowa. Here we are in the dome. It's cold. We make this 5.5 hour trek up there to Northern Iowa. And he sees this kid and he goes, that kid's going to play in the NFL. And I'm like, the big tall kid, he goes, he's got good hands, he's got good feet. And who we're talking about?
Spencer Brown.
We're talking about Spencer Brown, man.
Yeah.
And so, we see him, and Briley Moore was a kid, he's a Kansas City kid who was playing tight end at the time at Northern Iowa we were talking with. And so Briley introduced us to Spencer, and we talked to him a little bit. And Steve said, this kid's going to play in the league. And watched him kind of develop and go. What was it like when Spencer came in? Because you probably had to kind of take him under your wing a little bit when he came in, but he came in and started right away there in Buffalo, yes?
Well, so Spencer, first of all, is a giant. You see him when you walk in a room, it's hard to miss. He's huge. And so he had taken a year off from football because of the COVID year, and then he had an opportunity to go somewhere else, but didn't feel like that was his story. So he took a year off and then came in. So he was, raw, sure, but like you could tell, like if this something clicks here, people are in trouble. And his rookie year, he came in a little bit later and started, and I think it was a great learning experience. Rookie year in the NFL is just you're just praying to God it ends. And anyone who says it's not the truth, it's the truth. And then going into his second year, he had to have back surgery, so he missed almost all of training camp and everything, and then ended up being a starter, and I thought played really well. Got some flack, and I'll tell you what, Spencer Brown is one of my best friends.
I love that, man.
One of
That's
my best friends.
That's awesome.
But he like everyone did a lot of growing up, not in a bad way, just as you do in the NFL, right?
Sure.
Like you just understand how it goes. And last year put together just an unbelievable, monster season, a healthy season, unbelievable player, just understands how to be a professional. And now it's going to be fun. It's disappointing not to be there with him as he goes into his contract year, but to see where he is, how focused he is on football, and not only the gifts he has, but how the tools and how precise he is with them. And it's just so much fun to see Spencer. He's just a good dude. And like every Iowa guy like I've met is A1, dude.
Well, so he'll get on that recruiting next year when his contract's out and bring him to Jacksonville.
He'll be able to chase the cheese, I think. Yeah. Of course, you never know, but he has the opportunity to really make some dough next off season if he wants to.
Well, listen, shout out to Spencer Brown. When I was reading his story, like when you brought that COVID year up, I read the story that when they shut Northern Iowa down that COVID year, like everybody, like Alabama, USC, like all these schools were coming after him. Yeah. And if I read what was right in the article, his comment in the article was none of these schools came out. He played 8-man football, right? In Iowa, he played 8-man football. So none of those schools were after him. Jamie, none of those schools were after him. Like early, none of those schools were after him. So what I read in the article was basically like, he was like, why would I leave here? Northern Iowa's who took a chance on me. So he went and trained somewhere and got ready for the draft. And so anyway, shout out to Spencer Brown.
Shout out to Spencer Brown.
Northern Iowa, man. So that's really cool. He's one of your best friends. That's awesome. It's a great story. So tell us a little bit more I want to hear a little bit more about the OTAs in Jacksonville.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about Trevor, because I know you're super excited about this season. You guys will travel to Buffalo this year, correct?
We will. Week 3, Monday Night Football.
Week 3, Monday Night Football.
Yeah, it'll be a very unique experience. It'll be fun.
So we'll definitely have the cameras on for that. But so OTA is really good in Jacksonville, just really hot.
Well, it's definitely not cool. I'll tell you what, it's really fun to be on that team. Like I said earlier, that's just so hungry to get back out there and prove to be the team that they think they can be,
right?
That we can be, and that's a fun experience. Of course, I'm also like one of the only new guys in the offensive line room. So I'm trying to kind of catch up with everything going on. Not only that, but these guys have relationships with each other, right? part of that coming in is everyone's been around a guy who comes in, tries to fit in too early, be this guy, and immediately like, man, forget this dude. like this guy, this dude sucks. So that was my greatest fear. So I tried to play it slow. But I also don't have years to develop relationships. So it's a very interesting dynamic. So there's a guy, Brandon Sheriff, who's the right guard, who's an Iowa guy, who's like the pinnacle of my draft class, got drafted 5th overall, like 6-time Pro Bowler. Okay. So it's fun. I've got to know him over the years just from common friends and such. So it's kind of nice to have him as a sounding board and stuff. And it's just a great offensive line room. And along with that, a really killer locker room. And Trevor, the thing that freaks me out about Trevor, he's got this real long hair.
Beautiful hair.
It's something. It's nice. It's something. But it'll be 100 degrees outside and we'll be dying, sweating, and he'll still be doing this hair flick thing. And his hair, there's no moisture. Like his hair is completely dry still. So that freaks me out a little bit. But besides that, like he's awesome. A great guy.
Well, like I said, I'm excited to watch your season and how everything develops in Jacksonville. Can we go back and talk a little bit about? I want to talk a little bit about some of those playoff games because there was some historic. I mean, one of them was an instant classic, and maybe let's just talk about that one. But that 13-second game, what was that like on your offense? Because it had to be when you guys are going down and scoring and being like, looking at the time, being like we're like, this is it. Like I
almost threw a bottle of beer through my 85-inch when Gabe Davis came wide open again. I'm like, is anyone going to cover him? Like, come on. Well, and as a fan, just being an asshole, I was like, what are you guys doing?
Well, the reason why they say you got to wait till the clock hits 0 for these games to be over. I mean, I had been on the other sideline during that AFC Championship game where they actually took the lead, and the Patriots did, and we had to go down in a similar situation to kick a field goal to even get to overtime. Like you said, an emotional. I think within like a minute and 40 left in the game, the lead changed 3 or 4 times, right? Like so, you really are in kind of cruise control mode in regards to just kind of what's my job, what's it pertain to, and all this stuff. So for me, not to say I wasn't a little bit like excited because of the opportunity. I also understood, like, listen, there's a chance to go down. So, like, what's the next play? Like, what adjustments can we still be making? So, a lot of us were still in that mode. A few of us were caught off surprise. It's in the nature of the business. But yeah, it sucks being on instant classics, but being on, I've been in like 2 instant classics where I've been on the wrong side of both of them. So, but it's just, it was a great game. Like, no one can, like, and that's the shitty thing you say to people is like, even though you lost it, you sit there and you're like, that was awesome. It was all time.
To watch Josh fling the ball around and run over people and do what he was doing, watch you on that offensive line, like do what you guys are doing offensively, so dynamic, and then watching 15 come back and the way it was, like, I mean, for us, obviously, it was just awesome. But I know you're on that team in that locker room. So tell me, last year, you had to go to Arrowhead. I know you kept thinking, God, we got to go play the Chiefs at Arrowhead during the season. We got to go play them then during the playoffs. Then last year, everything lines up. You're like Orchard Park, Bills Mafia. We get them in our house. What was your guys' locker room like? Like before that, were you guys like, hey, we finally get them in our house or type of thing? Or what's that like with that playoffs?
Yeah, I think more than anything, it wasn't so much who we were playing, but it was just we had a home playoff game in the divisional round. That was something unique for the fans and the experience. And we understood we had our work cut out for us. And we did. And inevitably, I thought it was a really hard fought game. And again, we didn't end up on the right side of it, which was tough, especially at home for the fans, I think, more than anything. So, but you know who you're playing, the guys, and in the regular season, you do this thing, and then the postseason, mistakes are amplified, and I think nothing's more apparent than in that game or in any playoff game you see.
Of course.
When it breaks down that we're going to Buffalo, I called Gene. I goes, there's 0 fucking ways we're winning up there. He's like, come on, man, we can't. I was like, dude, no. I go, I love us, and we're, but I'm like, I go, they are going to be there probably Friday afternoon, and they are going to be going
ready to go
like,
for Sunday.
they want, and rightfully so. I remember back in the day, in the Chiefs, when Denver would finally got Denver here in 97. I'm like, fuck them. We're going to get them. This is our year. We're going to get them. And what do they do? Dink, dunk, dunk. And it's game's over and we lose. But I was like, there's no way we're winning up there. And just kind of leading up to it, I was like, I'll watch and I'll be like, let's, but I was like, there's no way. So that was a big thing that I'm like, and you guys were kind of dictating you guys kind of like, I was like, I thought you guys took control of the line of scrimmage and was kind of doing some things that I was like, man, this is going to be, this is not going to work out.
I think it was what you want in January. It was just a great football game between two good teams. Sure. And this is a cliche answer, but just, we didn't end up on top. And
Of course.
You just don't know how that game would have played out 9 times out of 10. And that time we suffered. And you know what? That's the nature of this business, man. You lose games when you make mistakes, and that's what happens.
Because you guys got them just a few weeks before. You guys got them inside Arrowhead Stadium. You guys came in Arrowhead.
We had a weird knack of like doing okay in the regular season, and then not having that opportunity in the postseason. Which you know what? That's why you play in the postseason. Sure, man, you know what I mean? How it goes.
Well, listen, man, we thank you so much for coming on our podcast, man. This Love You Bro podcast is something Jamie and I want to do for a long time. Being able to work with guys like you and having you guys take time out of your schedules to come on here is what's going to make our podcast fun. We love having you on. Good luck with everything in Jacksonville. I'll be keeping up, and I'm going to be waiting for my Morse signed Jacksonville Jaguars.
Duval,
that's got to go down the man cave.
Yeah, it's exciting. We're so excited, and I think preseason game 1. Yeah. Come on down, dude. It'll be hot as hell, but come on down.
And my little girls were here tonight. They were here tonight, and now your Uncle Mitch. Yeah. I've never seen him. Little Teddy came up to you like, give me a high five.
I got to tell you, you did something right with those 2 gals. They're awesome.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
Love
you, bro.
Appreciate you guys.
Listen, man, love you, brother. Thanks for coming on. Okay.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks.
Appreciate you.